Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
Now, did you intentionally wear very similar glasses to Barbara Crampton in this movie?
No.
Because it's kind of, I mean, not obviously the whole movie, but at the start of the movie when she first shows up, she's got like the glasses on and she's got the suit jacket and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the conservative part of her story before the later part where it gets a bit more...
After the downfall.
Well, we'll get into it. This movie's called From Beyond. This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a movie we've watched. I can't speak. That's a good say for this episode, isn't it? So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers. This is a film directed by Stuart Gordon, the same director as Reanimator, which also starred Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs, who's also in this. But this also features our main man from Dawn of the Dead, Ken Faree. Also Keenan's dad, if you ever watched Keenan and Kel. That was his later sort of role.
Is he Bubba?
He's Bubba, yeah. That's Bubba.
Ex-pro football player?
Turned cop. Yes. Which I'll be honest, this is like the third time I've seen this movie, and I always forget that he's a cop. Like, it's like casually mentioned later on. I'm like, oh yes, right. He's like, that's why he's there. He's like a bodyguard.
He's like he seems like he's just a driver.
Well, I think he's there
and protect her from Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs, who's possibly crazy. Yes, like so. Yes, but anyway, this is a weird movie in a lot of ways. It's a weird one to kind of describe. It does technically, when it comes up with the title, it says H.P. Lovecraft's From Beyond, much like Reanimator. I have no idea how like faithful it is to a Lovecraft idea, or if it's just kind of a broad like concept that Lovecraft had that they've shoved in a movie and they're using it.
Yeah.
You know, kind of in the same way that, like, I don't know, Tom Clancy's name gets thrown around on like every Ubisoft video game these days. Yeah. I'm gonna go out on the limb here and say that Tom Clancy didn't have anything to do with Ghost Recon Wildlands. For a start, he's dead, but you know.
Well, it's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, though.
It's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, yes.
It's just adapted.
But it's not. They literally bought the rights to the name so they could just keep throwing the name on things that are vaguely in the genre of Tom Clancy things.
This is a short story, but it's like very short. It's like 7 pages or something.
Oh, From Beyond?
Yeah. I don't know if it has the same name or not, but what they took the source material is apparently quite short.
I mean, I could understand that. Like, given the concept that's in the movie, I could totally see how it's just there's this machine, and there's this idea of like what it reveals, and that's it. I could see that with the entire story, and then they've just went and wrote a script that incorporates that idea, like, which is fine. Like, I mean, hell, yeah, you have an idea starting from somewhere. Good a place as any. So, yeah. The basic premise of this is that Jeffrey Combs was working with a scientist, and they built a machine that enhances the brain so that you can see another, I don't want to say dimension necessarily, but it's almost like there's like another reality that's just out of sync with ours that has various creatures in it. And they're always around us, but they can't see us and we can't see them. Right. But this machine takes that away, and all of a sudden you can see each other. And it has like sort of a mysterious, horrific thing happens at the start of the movie. He looks like he's murdered someone and they think he's crazy, but then in comes Crampton, the Cramper, as I like to call her. She comes in and no.
The
Krampus? No?
No one's ever called her that.
The Krampus, the there's gotta be a good nickname here with Cramp in it. No? Cramptonator?
I don't know. It's sure I'll show my boobs on screen. Crampton.
What is still true today. I just watched Jacob's Wife, and that came out this year, and she took her boobs out in that too. So
bless her.
You know, still a very confident woman. Good for her. So, but yes. So they go back to the house because she wants to study this machine and recreate the experiment. For some reason, the police and like the doctor's kind of against it, but the police are like, you know what? Yeah, this sounds like a good idea. I'll send one cop in with you, and you can go and do this crazy experiment again, see what happens. Even though the last time someone tried this experiment, seemingly it got someone killed.
Their head cut off.
Yes. So the logic behind letting her do this is like, the only thing I can assume is that this middle-aged detective is like, you're really pretty, I'll let you do whatever you want, Miss Crampton. Whatever you want to do, you can go do it. No questions asked. Because nothing else makes sense.
No, it's she's trying to establish whether or not he's crazy, and there's some evidence to suggest that he's not, so they're just following up on it. It's for the case.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't know. Like,
it's weak. I get it.
Yeah, it's strenuous at best, right? The logic of letting her take this potentially crazy person who might have twisted off a man's head and leaving her alone. I mean, yes, with one cop there as like a protective person, but like,
he's Jeffrey Combs. He's the tiny little thing.
Yeah, but he's very intense and he's overact. And I say this with love, but he loves to overact like he's a crazy person anyway. Even like, there's several times at the start of this movie when I think, just see if you stop yelling and like try to struggle, maybe you wouldn't sound as. I mean, it still sound kind of crazy, but you wouldn't seem as psychotic. Just in general.
Well, I mean, he's witnessed some shit, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme. There's no denying that.
He definitely doesn't want to be there.
So naturally wants to get back to the house, which is where most of the movie's set. Not all of it, but most of it. The experiment is tried again, and we begin to see and learn more things, and it has an effect on them, and we'll get into all the rest of it in spoilers. So, Tara, how do you feel about From Beyond?
Well, I requested that we watch this one, so because I really like it. Yes, I'm also a fan of the Reanimator films. I've watched them all, and fairly recently. I've only recently dipped my toes into the works of Stuart Gordon, and we did one of his films on the bonus episode. We did Robot Jocks after I'd watched the Reanimator, so I'm a big fan, and a big fan of Jeffrey Combs, and because I like those other movies, Barbara Crampton as well falls under that category. And yeah, this movie is very disgusting. It's got a lot of high energy. It's got some gratuitous nudity and very stimulating film in many ways. So it's great.
It was definitely stimulating. I'll say that.
That's what you want from horror movies, right? Just that stimulation.
Yes. It's, you know, there was a couple of disgusting moments in it. I don't know if we're going to agree on what the disgusting moments are necessarily, but there was a couple of disgusting moments.
And yeah, I've got some.
It's actually kind of a sci-fi Hellraiser in some ways.
Oh, it's very Hellraiser, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some parallels to Hellraiser, and what's funny is this actually came out before Hellraiser did. But
this movie is very much about something specific and something very mid-'80s specific, which I don't think Hellraiser was, but maybe if I watched it now with this lens, it would be.
Well, I think Hellraiser goes deeper into, because what we're comparing it to Hellraiser with, I think Hellraiser does more of it and goes further into it than this does, but there's definitely some parallels and some themes between the two films. Whereas that's like, you know, like straight up horror because it's unleashing these demon figures that are to do with like sadomasochism. Say it. S&M. I'll just say S&M. I keep wanting to say sadomechanism. I'm like, what's up?
That's Tetsuo.
That's Tetsuo. Now, surely sadomechanism is just like the apparatus you use to perform S&M. Like,
oh, it's what's the Robert Pattinson one then with the chair?
Oh, the High Life with the dildo chair. Yeah. So, so that goes deep into that, right? Whereas this is more about it you know, obviously the doctor who was doing these experiments, you know, he wanted to have more stimulation, and part of that was like experiencing the wonders of this new thing, of unlocking the pineal gland and letting all these new experiences sort of come in. And but of course, but the way he kind of becomes enraptured with it, and like it kind of feels like, oh, this is kind of Hellraiser, because he was already kind of into kinky shit, and this was about him kind of expanding into a new level of pleasure, a new level of sensation. So there's definitely a comparison there between them. I like the movie quite a bit too. I think there's a lot of great practical effects. There's a lot of squirmy stuff. I think the trio of cast is actually kind of it's almost called a lightning in a bottle. Now I know that technically Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs have already been in a movie together, and they were both tied heavily to Stuart Gordon.
They did Castle Freak also.
Yeah, but that movie sucks, so it's fine.
No, I like that one.
But these two did work together already. Castle Freak was later. But Ken Foree, like bringing him in from Dawn of the Dead, like you have kind of this like trio of like cult genre actors that, you know, they all do well at conventions, right? They're all signing a bunch of autographs. They've all got queues at the tables. You know,
they're all like, hey, why don't we just do a movie together?
This is not like that, like, I don't know, like the dad from Troll 2 who goes to a horror convention and just sits there sad, and like only a few people want to come up and talk to him.
I'm sure he's got some fans.
He probably does. I only said him because I've seen the clip from Best Worst Movie where like he finds out that the movie Troll 2 has this following because it's like the best worst movie, and he has this moment where he's at a convention and he sort of looks around and kind of critiques all these sad people who come to conventions, and then realizes that he's become one of them.
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking when I used to go to Comic-Con in San Diego, which was a long time ago, but like there was the guy who died not too long ago. He played like the clown in he's in all the like House of Rob Zombie films, like House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah. He's in Jackie Brown as well.
Is he?
Sid Haig.
I don't remember. Yes, Sid Haig. Yeah, I saw him sitting in a bench, like to sign autographs, and like everybody was just skipping his table, which was so sad. I went and talked to him for a little bit because I had seen A House of a Thousand Corpses. That's all I knew him from. Even though I didn't like the movie.
Did he make you buy anything?
No. Okay. I mean, he offered.
Because I've heard I hear this more admittedly with wrestlers than I do with actors, but there's some wrestlers who go to the conventions and like it's like if you make eye contact with them, they're going to make you buy something. Like you have to avoid eye contact at all costs.
No, I mean they're obviously there to make money. Like that's the promise of them being there, is that they can sell headshots and pictures and stuff like that. So, I talked to him, but I didn't buy anything. He was by himself. Do
you know that Tommy Wiseau apparently sells Tommy Wiseau underwear when he's at conventions?
Oh, I know he's got that website.
Yeah, he sells his underwear. It's not in like a. Like
it's good to have a passion.
It's not in like a, well, at least, I mean, it's Tommy Wiseau, maybe it is, but I'm assuming it's just the underwear he makes. It's not like, oh, I wore this underwear, so it's sexy. Like,
yeah.
By my underwear.
I mean, I wouldn't buy it though, because like I'm sure the area for the genitals is way too high and to like the right. Or is it too low? It would be too low, huh? Trying to. Well, no, because his anatomy's all wrong in the sex scene.
Well, he was aiming for the belly button, it looked like. So
yeah. So it would be like down like on the left knee or something.
Well, it depends. Are you meant to wear them all the way up, so they're up covering your belly button, or there's some logistics here that I think don't add up.
The anatomy will be all wrong. This is not really human.
Yeah. He also sells football jerseys, but he doesn't understand, so they're tuxedos. But that's another.
Huh.
Yeah, that was just a joke. It was an okay. If you've seen The Room, it's an okay joke. Yes. So anyway, where was I? Yes. Delightful cast. Delightful cult horror sci-fi cast, for sure. And I would argue, like, you know, some people, I mean, you called it horror, and I would say it is horror, but I would argue this is more sci-fi than it is horror. I mean, the
I
way
mean,
you
like you're working with
the way
machines. It's
you-
very Frankenstein.
the way you rushed to agree with me there tells me so much about how much you agree with me.
Well, it's easy to think horror because, well, it's pretty grotesque, and also the just the other films of with this cast and this crew says horror. Although maybe you can count.
You're the one who
Reanimator,
wanted to
Bride,
do it on the
Reanimator.
show. You're sitting here arguing with me that it's more horror.
No, I'm not arguing.
Oh,
I'm just saying
okay.
like it's easy to connect the two. Like that's probably why I said horror.
Okay,
But it is
okay.
definitely a science fiction film.
Yeah, well, it's mad science. It's just monsters. It's like it's essentially trans-dimensional aliens.
Different dimensions. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's all these things. Definitely, though, there is a lot of like body violence and some. I wouldn't necessarily say gore per se.
I wouldn't eat a meal while watching it.
No. It's definitely disgusting, but it's like the reason why I'm not classing it as gore is because the stuff that's weird tends to be extra things that aren't normally on the human body. So I don't know if I'd count it as gory per se. Maybe it's a weird distinction in my head, but like when you have like someone who's grown like an extra arm, if that extra arm, and this is not something that's in the movie, I'm just using a hypothetical, but if someone's grown like a weird deformed extra arm and then that gets cut off, I don't think of that as like gore in the same way.
Well, I don't know. Like when I think of like the Reanimator, where it's just a bunch of body parts getting sentient and moving on their own, and
but
getting to giant size and stuff like that. That seems like gore to me, also.
well, not so much the giant size because that's too comical. But I mean, but for the rest of what you just said, though, those are still regular human body parts.
Yeah, but they get the Reanimator fluid causes them to engross and become alive.
Yeah, I know, but at that point, I would stop calling it gore. At that point, I would say it's like silly, practical fun.
Okay.
Like
I don't know. I think it's a weird distinction, but
I think there's a line like to me like gore has to be somewhat like a realistic. Well, not.
I guess it's true. Like when I think of the Kill Bill and like the Crazy 88s, when she slices a head off and it's just fountains of blood, that's so absurd. Like that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But like Reanimator, where it's like engrossed body parts that are moving around like snakes, like that's gross.
Look, this is irrelevant to it. The point is in this movie, like the things like think of the main bad guy in this movie when you see him, right?
Ugh.
He's so remotely not like I wouldn't call anything with him gore. Like nothing with him is gory. It's disgusting. It's weird,
Okay.
but not gory.
All right.
You can disagree. That's okay. Just say you disagree. We can move on. It's fine.
I disagree.
Okay, that's fine. We'd have to sit and debate the merits of Reanimator, which I've not seen in like 4 years, and I don't remember these parts you're talking about. So
Well, I mean, I think maybe you can call it sci-fi and we can watch it.
no, I've heard it on the streams.
Fine.
I mean, Reanimator's kind of borderline. It's definitely got a bit of sci-fi in it, but I would say that one
Yes.
that veers more towards horror.
Okay. Well, we'll decide next October. I'll decide.
Yes, you'll decide. Well, you say that as if this is for October. It's the end of November.
Yeah, we have time.
No, but this one wasn't for October.
You know,
Okay. I
it
thought
could be
you
a
were.
horror sci-fi thing. That's what I'm talking about.
I know, but I thought you said it as if this was as if it was a follow up to this being this year's like
No,
thing.
I just meant like we'll do it next October.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
That means yes.
No, it doesn't. I can say no if I want to.
What else do you like about the movie?
I mean, I am a warm-blooded man. It's hard not to deny that Barbara Crampton gets into some outfits in this one that's memorable.
You
Hey,
get a smooth Jeffrey Combs also.
Hey, and let's not forget, Ken Foree runs around an entire scene in his little tight red.
Yeah, that was for the ladies.
Yeah,
for sure.
his little tight red underpants.
Yeah, banana hammock.
Yes, and he's like diving downstairs. He's like, he's like an action scene, and he's like, and this like that's all he's wearing is his red underwear. That's it. That's all he's got.
He likes to be cool when he sleeps.
Apparently, especially in this house. This house is just getting like, hornier and hornier as the movie's going on. It's very important. But I mean, it's fun ideas. I mean, it's one of those things where you can kind of feel the budget a little bit because it is all set in the house mostly. But all the practical effects are so outlandish, and most of them really work well. And there's a good variety to them. That it's kind of easy to get into the fun of it and sort of like enjoy the actors kind of losing themselves into the kind of the crazier parts when they start to like either get a bit crazy or get a bit horny, and they start to sort of just act a little bit off kilt.
Yeah,
it's hard not to have some fun with that. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. It's a very short movie. It's like 80 minutes. It goes in super quick.
Yeah. It kind of feels like it has two endings also. There's like a very satisfying moment where you think like it's over and they've won, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's 25 minutes left.
I don't know if I agree with this. I don't remember thinking, oh, they've won with 25 minutes left, but okay.
Well, I don't want to say too much because we're not in spoilers yet.
Yes. No, of course. No, I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's not over at the end of Act 2. There's a third act.
Yeah.
Where there might be more jeopardy. Otherwise, it'd be a very weird third act of just like, oh, everything's fine there. Let's just all sit around and chat for a bit and see out the closing credits. No, it's a fun time. It's a fun time. I'll get the spoiler warning then so we can talk about all the bits and pieces. In some cases, literally. So full spoilers for From Beyond from this point forward. From beyond this point.
Well done.
Yeah. So, the opening couple of scenes is actually just Jeffrey Combs turning on the machine properly for the first time, and he wakes up Dr. Mann and says, "Hey, it works. The machine works." And right away, you don't really see in his room properly, right? But you can tell from just his robe that he's at least he thinks he's like a sex beast, right?
He's got like a Ricardo Montalban thing going on.
Yeah, he's got like a thin silk robe.
Yes.
So it's like it's your first sign that this dude's a bit of a player, seemingly.
Yeah.
And it throws you at the deep end as well, because when we do come back to the house, like Ken Foree just walks into the in fact,
his sex room.
We don't even see that. We hear whipping and screaming and panting, and Crampton walks in, and Ken Foree's like just found like a video that this guy's recorded of whipping someone, and it's like, oh, okay. And then you look around the room and it's like, oh, okay, we got 50 Shades of Red in here.
Yeah.
So so those themes are kind of there early on, and not the only weird hint that there's going to be sexual themes in this movie. Need I point out that this is years before Silence of the Lambs, but actually beats it to the punch, pun intended, when it comes to an inmate in a mental hospital furiously masturbating, and looking at well, in this case it's a doctor as opposed to an FBI agent, but same difference. Because Crampton comes to see Jeffrey Combs because I don't know if she's like just interested in his case or if she's been like charged.
I think she's interested in the guy who was killed in the beginning. His head was twisted off.
Yeah. Which you only get
a sexy guy in the robe.
You only get a glimpse of that though at the start of the movie. Like you see like a dog licking, and you get like just a glimpse of
the neighbor, like the cliche nosy neighbor who's got a little like poodle or something, and she's got her hair like in one of those like shower caps, but she's got full makeup on, so she clearly hasn't showered. And yeah, it is gross though. Like she follows the little white poodle looking thing that's licking the headless corpse of this doctor.
You get just a glimpse though, and you can tell that it's not like a regular decapitation because
it's got like a coiled effect to it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a sort of point to the top of it, like a walnut whip. For anyone who knows what a walnut whip is, and it's like, wait, that's a weird visual. What's going on there? And obviously, we get to see later on exactly how this happened, but well, not to him.
Is a walnut whip when like guys in the locker room like do the thing with a towel to your walnuts?
No.
And then I don't know what it is.
It's a chocolate cream and nut treat. That is purchasable.
Seems
in
like
the
a
UK.
coiled up towel being whipped on someone's walnuts to me.
No. Why
Hey,
would
both work. Both analogies work.
no, they don't? How does this decapitated head look like a towel?
Because it's a wrapped up towel. It's all coiled up.
How do you coil a towel like this? That's like, maybe if you're like someone who can do like origami, you could do a towel like this.
Well, like when it's all wrapped up, it looks like it's coiled up. I mean, it's good that you don't know, I guess.
No, but if you've got a towel and you go like that, you get like a more of a like that. This is more like I guess it's more like an ice cream that comes out of a machine where you get the point. That's what it looks like.
Like soft serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the end of the towel, though, like on either end would be like that. Whatever, it's not what you meant anyway.
Yeah.
Why all hung up on this?
I just disagree.
Did I trigger some trauma?
I just don't. I can't picture in my head how a towel ends up looking like that.
Whatever, it works.
Everyone at home, Google walnut whip, have a look at it, and then tell me if you think a towel can look like that. A towel can kind of look like that so you know, like a woman gets out of the shower and they sort of do the wrap around the head. Maybe you kind of get that shape vaguely with that.
We spent way too much time on this.
It's a
We
sharp.
need to move on and get over it already.
It's a sharp movie, okay? It's fine.
There's plenty to talk about.
So yes, Ken Farree's a very nice chap when he first shows up. He's
Yeah,
you know,
he's a happy guy.
he's cracked some jokes. He tries to be friendly. He doesn't seem like he, is belittling Jeffrey Combs. I do have to ask a question though. When they get to the house, right, the three of them in the van, and they go inside and the power's out, and part of the reason why the power's out is because Jeffrey Combs, pulled the power to try and help shut everything off when he was leaving. Jeffrey Combs just Batman's out of the scene, and he was standing right next to Ken Faree, and Barbara Crampton turns around and goes, "Where's whatever his name is in the movie?" And Faree's like, "Oh shit, we lost a crazy person." He was right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Combs is a little guy. Camfrey's quite big.
He was standing right next to him. How could he possibly get away from you, given where you were standing?
He knows the house.
And the idea that he didn't notice until Barbara Crampton said, "Hey, where's that guy?" He's like,
Well,
"Oh shit."
there's a lot to be distracted by in this house.
Not yet, there isn't. But
It's a pretty intriguing looking front entry.
moving on. So they to get power back on. And Barbara Crampton's like, "Okay, you're going to turn the machine back on." And Jeffrey Combs is like, No. That's a bad idea. It'll get us. It ate him. Then it'll come after us. And Ken Faree's like, "Yeah, what do you mean this it? What's this it all about? Maybe we should, rethink this a little bit." But she convinces Jeffrey Combs to repair the machine. And they turn it on. And we never really talked about what they see when they turn the machine on. I guess this is as good as time as any. There's a bit of a flashing purple light, but the main thing is that there's kind of like eels swimming in the air, is maybe the best I could describe them. At least to begin with. There's some other things that kind of, like the more spidery thing that seems to bite Ken Foree's arm at one point, jumps at him. Although I think that's a later scene, it's not in this one. But yeah, the dead doctor shows up, and basically something absorbed his head, and now like there's a being here that seems to have his personality and memories, but he's a little bit. In this first time, he's just kind of sweaty looking. He's not like too non-human.
Yeah, he shows up and he's totally like, it's just his naked self.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, all proud and everything. Just standing there talking to everybody.
Yeah, looking a bit sweaty, or maybe slimy is a better word. Like,
he tells Combs to touch him to see if he's real. And like he puts his fingers on him and it leaves like this huge imprint. Like he's actually all gooey. And then he rips his face off. Like he rips his own face off.
Yeah. Which we see like in greater effect later because the image that's used on the poster is like the second time we see him, which is where half of his face is like just properly like slanted all the way down,
like fused with his shoulder and stuff. Yeah.
And he just sort of like it's like the entire like left hand side of his body is just completely turned into this goop of mass.
Yeah, it's very Society effects. If you've seen that film Society.
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's very much. It reminds me of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
just body parts like fused together with extra flaps of skin and lots of goo. There's lots of goo in this film.
But he gets intimidating enough that they shut it off. And but one of the key points we actually glossed over here is that before the naked dude shows up, they all have a moment. So Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton are looking at each other, and they're clearly getting a little bit turned on. And then for Ken Foree, he just kind of looks at them and then sort of goes, "Ah, shit." And it's not until later that I realise what his oh shit was.
Yeah.
Because he says it in the next scene where they're sitting around the breakfast table, and he's like, "So why did that get hard on?"
A raging hard on.
A raging hard on, yes, that was the exact line. And Barbara Crampton's like, well, it stimulates the brain, but I mean, it also clearly stimulates sexually as well. And
it's because it causes, they're using some sort of a resonance in order to activate this other dimension, but that resonance also stimulates the pineal gland, which is where like the pleasure parts of the brain, I guess, are as well.
Well, yeah, I think the way they described it is that the pineal gland, it's like actually that itself that's letting you see the other dimension.
Yes.
So you're enhancing. It's almost like you only use part of your brain, blah blah. That old myth. It's almost like kind of tap into that, but just with a very specific part of the brain and say, no, that's one part. We enhance that, and we can see into another dimension. But the problem is that then the monsters can also see us, and it's like we're tapping into something we shouldn't be, and that's part of the fun.
I think this movie is about drugs. It's about drug use. It's about people who are unsatisfied with the pleasures of the world and try drugs and then are able to, I mean, there's obvious like links to hallucinatory drugs where you just can see things that no one else can. And then, but also it's about pleasure because drugs release, it's a quick fix of dopamine. And once you experience that, it's hard to break. It's very addictive because your brain's like, more, please. So I think that's why we have Barbara Crampton, like this goody doctor lady who goes down this rabbit hole of she gets a taste of it and is stimulated and wants more of it, but can't control it. Jeffrey Combs watched his mentor be obsessed with it and die. So he's afraid of it, but he keeps getting like almost peer pressured into doing it again or forced into a situation that he can't get out of it, and he is still addicted to it and he still likes it. So that's what I think this movie is about.
Yeah, I can't really argue any of that.
It's also very, Nancy Reagan era, war on drugs era. I think a lot of this film is just like, you can just compare it to drug use.
Yeah, but yeah, you bring this era up a few times here or there. I'm not that familiar with it because I'm younger than you. So.
Well, I mean, you're not American also.
I'm also not American. That's also true. Like, I literally didn't know that Ronald's wife was Nancy until you mentioned her name one day.
Yeah, Nancy Reagan was very, like,
Yeah.
she was, like, all over television. I mean, I wasn't really around for much of that time either, and I was very, very young. But, like, the legacy of Nancy Reagan lives on. And the war on drugs was very damaging to a particular people in the U.S.
It's funny because I don't think it's like preachy though or anything. Like the movie.
Oh, no.
It's there as subtext if you're looking for it, but I don't think it's in your face by any means. They even have there's a slight Deep Blue Sea comparison in that Crampton's goal here is that she believes this might actually help with curing schizophrenia. And her argument is that maybe everyone with schizophrenia, like if they all have like, this part of their brains all enhanced, but unnaturally, by accident, maybe they're all just seeing some of these monsters and that's what makes them all seem like they're nuts. And I'm like, I feel, at least from a modern perspective, that felt very belittling of what schizophrenia actually is to me. But I don't think they meant any harm with it. It was just, it came off as like just nonsense movie science.
Yeah.
In the same way that in Deep Blue Sea, like, Saffron Burrows, that woman that's made of wood. And I say that,
yeah, she's trying to cure Alzheimer's by studying shark brains.
Yeah, shark brains will let us cure Alzheimer's. And when I say made of wood, I meant because our acting's very wooden. Just to make that joke 100% clear. So that kind of sets up her things, and she's immediately like, okay, we're gonna have to do the experiment again. And Ken Foree's like, oh hell no, we're just gonna leave. Like, as soon as let's all rest because we have to rest. Right, we've had a lot taken out of us, but then we're going to leave. But Barbara Crampton wakes up mid-sleep and just
she can't stop thinking about it.
And she's thinking about it. She wants to go up.
I mean, we sort of see all of them while they're sleeping, and they're all like having probably some crazy dreams.
Yeah, it's funny because you went to the drugs thing, and I like obviously there was a moment later on where Ken Foree says that she's acting like an addict or the junkie, I think was the exact word. But I actually, because I wasn't thinking of it from that lens, I was thinking it purely in a sexual way. I was thinking this was more like sex addiction or something, like because the way she's drawn back up to it, and I can see how it's easily just flippable into, oh, she's like needing her next fix. And I suppose even sex addiction is ultimately you could boil down to fixes if you want to, but the way she...
I think that's what Hellraiser is often like about also, versus this is more of like the drugs thing, I guess.
Yeah, but the way she's drawn back up to it, where she's like, like going up and she's like seductively flipping the lever, and like, it's all very like the forbidden fruit of, she's Eve pinching the apple right now. Okay, that's what she's doing. She's pinching the apple. She's going too far towards the proverbial sun. But of course, this actually ends in like numerous tragedy, where Ken Foree gets bit this time by a monster. Dr. Man is like half melted, as we mentioned before, and like she, like, until they come in and like help her like shut things down, which takes a lot of effort, because I mean they don't shut it down from up here, like they get blocked from stopping it, and like they have to run down into the basement. This is when Ken Foree's in his underwear, and the basement's got a monster in it. There's a big like, sort of water alien snake looking thing in the basement that's blocking the power switch.
It looks kind of like the sandworms on a smaller scale, but it's got like the same type of like a giant leech, really.
Because we see Barbara Crampton's getting her head munched, and at the same time Jeffrey Combs is getting his entire upper body munched by the snake thing, and it's only just here where it finally gets shut off. But this leaves Jeffrey Combs without any of his hair. He's got like markings all over the top of his body. He looks like he's been through hell.
Yeah.
And it's affected him as well, because now his pineal gland's starting to like grow. But we shouldn't gloss over the fact that Barbara Crampton straight up is about to be raped by an alien mutated dude.
Yeah.
Before they jump in, because he rips off her
with elongated fingers.
Yeah, that was the thing. It's not just that he rips off her top, right? And then
he rips off her underpants too. You don't see it, but like he reaches down and rips it off a smaller piece of cloth. So I think it's just like you're supposed to assume that those are her panties.
Well, suggestive. Yeah, it's like but it's not just that he rips them off though and goes in for a feel. It's that they have this practical effect, like you said, where the fingers sort of like go longer, So it's these
Yeah.
goofy, big, like alien-looking fingers that are like groping her, just to like make it a bit more ickier, a bit more like it's not even human hands anymore. It's something else, and it just this all the visuals of this stuff, like the monster that's in the basement in the water, how he looks now, the main dude, like all of that stuff is just, and this is by far not the most disgusting thing though. I'll get to the most disgusting moment of the whole movie later on, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So, yes. So of course they're going to leave, right? It makes sense to leave. You know, it's like, I mean, the hell, Jeffrey Combs needs a hospital. He needs medical attention. Look at him.
Yeah.
He's in a rough spot. Ken Faree.
Well, I think also this is the point where like they try to shut down the machine. Oh, never mind. Because that was in the beginning where the machine was like activating itself.
That happens more than once. I think you might be thinking the next time it turns on, because it turns on again before they go.
Right, because they do shut it down. They shut everything down.
Yeah, because everything shuts down again here, which is why I don't think it was this previous time.
Yeah, okay. And then Barbara Crampton doesn't... I thought they escape after she uses the like the fire extinguisher on it. You know, the good old trusty fire extinguisher that works. It does many things.
I don't remember which time she used that, but I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter because like this next section plays out after the machine's off for a while.
Okay. Well, they haven't left. You said they left the house, but we haven't had like the dominatrix scene yet.
I haven't said that yet though.
Oh, okay. You just said that we got to get him to a hospital.
Yeah. So okay. That's because Ken Faree's packing to leave, and he's found some clothes. He's put on his old football jersey, right? So he's wanting to go, and he tells Barbara Crampton to get dressed. Right, we have to leave. When he goes out to pack, she does get dressed technically. Because as Jeffrey Combs is lying there, and he's not even like conscious, he's like asleep and like out of it, she starts like putting her hand in the shackles and like touching all the sex equipment, and she's like, oh, like this is all very exciting.
Combs is sleeping in this room.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to sleep in that bed, honestly.
I know.
See if I woke up injured and I'm like, you put me in the weird sex perverse bed, like
with like the leopard print sheets.
Like, really? There wasn't any other spots you could have put me on? But she finds some dominatrix gear, puts it on, and starts to sexually assault Jeffrey Combs while he's lying there with no physical control whatsoever. I think the creepiest part of this, though, it's not even just when she gets on top of him, it's when she puts her hand down the sheets, fondles him, and then brings her hand up and just slightly tastes her hand, just slightly, like that doesn't like suck on her finger, just gives it a slight little. It's almost like she's she's dipped her finger in some soup to test it. Oh. Like it's like just a little smidge.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's creepier than just like going all in, but it is.
Right. Yeah. Especially since she was like just sexually assaulted. So she's and now she's doing it to somebody else. So she's definitely gone far down the rabbit hole here of
I mean, if you want to relate that back to the drugs, I guess that's like the spread of addiction, maybe, as you could argue. Like, because if someone shoots you up with heroin, you're probably going to want more heroin, even though you never made the choice to take the heroin in the first place. So.
Well, yeah. Plus, this whole thing is like, well, this stimulates the pleasure part of the brain, so like your drug use is linked to that also. So in this case, it's shown through sexual acts. So like she's getting deeper and deeper into the sexual, like, the 50 Shades of Grey stuff.
Yeah. So we're calling it now, the 50 Shades of Grey stuff.
I haven't seen those movies, so I don't know, but what I imagine those movies are supposed to be about.
Okay. Unfortunately, I've seen 2 of them. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, nobody does.
They should, honestly, that movie should be renamed Red Flags, because all that movie was like, there's a red flag. Oh, there's another red flag. There's a lot of red flags in this movie.
Yeah.
So they do leave, but unfortunately, it's not until after Ken Faree because the machine turns itself back on. Like, the sparks start to form in the basement, and then everything starts putting itself back together.
And then Jeffrey Combs like wakes back up suddenly, like just because of the machine turned back on. I'm like, okay, that turned you back on. Well, more ways than one, but like Barbara Crampton did it. Part of me suspects that he let things happen. That's all. Like, let's just see where this is going.
I think the implication is that he got a jolt in the brain, which woke him up from the machine.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have stopped if he woke up. I think.
No, I don't think so either.
I think if he woke up and sort of gave an approving look, it wouldn't have stopped her for. It's not like she was only like tempting fate because it was like sneaky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he tried to stop her before when she was making out with him, because he kept trying to turn off the machine, and she would stop him and make out with them. And
that's because
he would give into it and then stop again.
He was still conscious enough to try and fight it, because he was he was realizing what was happening, but occasionally he was losing himself in the moment because the stimulation and you know the cramped in one.
She's a very attractive lady.
I'll think of a good nickname by the end. But this unfortunately is where Ken Free meets his end, because they're getting attacked by a swarm of like bugs from the other dimension when they're trying to turn everything off.
They look like chocolate chips to me.
And Ken Free is able to sort of like attract them to him, but they just straight up eat through his clothes and then his body. So we get this practical effect at the end where they've got his head like sticking through the floor, obviously, but they've got like animatronic like, skeleton arms and
it looks
stuff.
Good.
Yeah, it's a nasty death that you feel bad for, because he's been such a nice guy the whole movie.
Yeah, and he's just like been mostly eaten, but like in a weird way, where like part of him's just dissolved.
Yeah, he was a level-headed one as well. And I guess the whole idea, like, because Jeffrey Combs complains early on, now I'm thinking about it, like, he says, he would always bring women back with him, and I'd have to listen to them. I'd just lie there and listen to the screams. So the idea that, like, now he's, like, tempted into something, like, in his wake is kind of one of the dynamics as well, because we do actually leave the place, though, because we end up at the hospital, and like the sort of mean doctor lady who was giving a lot of shit at the start to Barbara Crampton is like checking out Jeffrey Combs, and they can't deny he's got some sort of weird tentacle thing coming out of his forehead at this point.
Yeah, it's fully like burst through.
Yes,
which was a gross scene.
His gland has ascended, shall we say? Yeah,
he's got like an antenna now,
which gives him like a weird video filter. When we see a POV shot, we see it through like a weird color filter.
Yeah, but he kind of has that like Hellraiser moment also of like when somebody becomes a Cenobite, and even though it's a really painful experience, afterwards they're like, why did I hesitate? This is the most pleasure I've ever felt. The same with this one too. Like he goes through literal like body hell, and then afterwards he's like, oh, it's a relief, and I feel amazing. So
yeah, because so Barbara Captain gets like basically yelled at by the police. The policeman who gave her the permission to do all this is mad at her now for ruining everything, and it's like, well, you did, like, how did you see this going? Like, like maybe not this extremely bad, but this is kind of on you, which is maybe why he's so upset with her. He's deflecting a little bit, but. Jeffrey Combs gets up and wanders around, and he tries to eat something. There's like some like leftover like hospital food on a trolley, and he tries to eat it, and he spits it out. He's like, oh, this is disgusting. And then it's the mean doctor lady who comes into like the room to find him. He's found some like human brains and like storage that he's eaten, and she says, oh, you shouldn't eat that, it'll make you sick. And he says it's delicious, but he drops it, and then he looks at her, and basically he realizes that it'll be much better if it's fresh brains. And something that I don't think I've seen in any other movie, he decides to suck her brains out of her eye socket. So he goes up.
Gross.
He goes up and sucks her eye socket out, spits it out, and then starts just sort of sucking at her eye hole, which is...
Yeah. Is this the one that got you?
No, it's not. This is not the disgusting part.
Actually, I thought him eating the brains was pretty disgusting.
It's like, honestly, eating disgusting stuff does get to me. Like,
Yeah.
but this didn't.
Because he was so into it, and then he kind of has like a moment of horror real quick where he's like, "What am I doing? What have I become?"
Yeah, I mean, the thing that disgusted me did involve a mouth, so we'll get to that soon. So Barbara Crampton basically escapes the hospital, as does Jeffrey Combs. They're both going back to the house, although Barbara Crampton at this point is now finally like realized that this has to be destroyed, and she's going back to plant a bomb. Where she got this very, very movie looking like bomb that's like a timer on a stick of dynamite, I don't know. Just roll with it. Just roll with it.
She had cop connections.
Yeah.
Maybe the hospital's got one.
Why is the hospital storing dynamite?
I don't know. In case of a zombie outbreak.
So she gets there. Jeffrey Combs has to suck a few more brains out of some eye sockets. Ambulance drivers, unfortunately, have to bite the dust so he can steal an ambulance.
So good.
As like the weird homeless drunk guy on the stretchers, like just yelling like nonsensical things.
A man with a snake in his head.
Oh dear. Now the bit that got me is obviously she sets the bomb and he comes in, he tries to stop her and he starts to fight her and tackle her and whatever. Is when she bites his gland. That's the moment I think is disgusting. And it works, don't get me wrong, it's effective, and it actually cures him. Like he turns back into Jeffrey Combs after that.
Yeah.
Not visually, he still looks bald and he's lost everything still, but he's personality
He's got a
wise.
weird hole in his head.
Yes, he's got an orifice where.
He can't. Well, now she took away the thing that resonates with the machine, so he's not getting any pleasure from it anymore. I'm not sure how he will live anyway if you lose your pineal gland.
I feel like you need that still to live, but I mean,
I don't know. I'm not a neuroscientist.
Maybe the regular gland's still in there. Maybe like this was like an extension of it, so she's just cut off the extra bit.
Yeah, it was just engorged.
So there's a lot of other fun stuff here towards the end where once again we see the main doctor dude, and we get to see kind of like what the monster probably looked like before it merged with him, because we actually get to see it rip off Jeffrey Combs' head, and you actually get to see it twisting the head. So it's like, oh, this is how it does it. It grabs the head and then twists. Which I guess makes sense. That's probably the most obvious thing, but it was just such a perfect twist when you got that first glimpse that it was like, oh, what did this? How? So we get this weird thing though where as it chases her back up into the attic where the machine is, like the doctor's merged back, or the doctor personality with the deformity all is come back out of the monster, but then Jeffrey Combs is in there as well and he fights out. He gets like born and yells at her to run.
I love that moment.
It's really good, but then it kind of absorbs him back in, so it's kind of like a struggle. Like he's not just like winning and like, but he is in there.
He looks like his old self again too when he does it. Like he's got his hair. Yeah. He's not like deformed or anything. He's like trying to escape from the monster, like whatever part of him is there.
Yeah, he looks kind of like Neo waking up in the bathtub, like in the real world.
Yeah, but he's got hair.
He's got hair. Yeah, but that's what he's
tons
got,
of goo,
blood and goo, and whatever. But it's like a constant struggle because he gets kind of pulled back in after a minute, but it's slowing down the monster enough that it gives her a chance to get out. I will say though, because we actually see the timer on the bomb is like 32 seconds, and I swear like a minute passes and then we cut back to it and it's at 23 seconds, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it does some movie stuff.
This 30 seconds is the longest 30 seconds I've seen in quite some time. So that's basically the ending. Though the one little thing though is that the nosy neighbor and a bunch of other neighbors, apparently, even though this house feels like it's in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't feel like it's near like a street with lots of buildings, but a lot of neighbors emerge to see, because there's an explosion. You know, the attics, it blew up at this point, and
like the meth lab blew up,
and they all come round to see what's happened, and they're asking if she's okay.
Yeah, she's got a little body horror also going on because she had to jump from the second story of the building as it was blowing up, and like her bones are sticking out of her knee.
I forgot about the broken leg. You're right. and she cries, but then it turns into a maniacal laugh, and that's when we cut to credits, and it's kind of like, oh, is her gland has her gland evolved too much?
Yeah. She gone too far. She can't come back.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the subtext is there about the drugs. I mean, all you could sort of boil it down, though, both on the surface and under the surface, as like toying with things that we shouldn't be toying with. You know, on a literal sense, it's like going into like another dimension and like tackling things we don't understand and just doing it because it gives us a pleasure. And the subtext, it's, you know, trying to add more happiness and like sources of dopamine and all the rest of it. It works well enough. I don't think it's like a super deep movie though. Like I think it's like a really good B movie with great practical effects and a good cast, which is fairly well directed. But I do think there's a, you know, like, I think there's a reason why I would say Hellraiser is a better movie than this is.
I would agree with that. And The Reanimator, I think, is a better movie.
I would say Reanimator is better too. I'm just trying to compare it directly with Hellraiser because of the themes, but because I think that specifically in like that, like, oh, that's actually like a genuine great horror classic, where this is like a really good cult movie, right? And it's a lot of fun, and they put a lot of effort into the effects, and those are delightful to watch, as are the actors. But you know, I wouldn't say it's like, this was a fun gem to find when I found it, and I'll you know, every so often I'll have fun watching it again. It's a very rewatchable movie, but it doesn't like hit the highs of like an actual, you know, classic of the genre where, you know, it's not one of the first 10 sci-fi movies you're going to recommend to someone.
Well, yeah, and I think like even compared to Hellraiser, I think takes itself a lot more seriously than this film does.
Yeah.
So it's easier to like say, well, yeah, that's like a genuinely great movie. But this one is much more campy and low budget. Although I don't know, maybe the budgets are kind of similar.
I was just thinking about it. I don't know if the budgets are that different. I mean,
it had some special effects, some really great special effects in Hellraiser, but
I'd say this is probably a bit more effects heavy than Hellraiser is, but Hellraiser definitely has a lot more on location.
I don't know,
stuff.
that makeup stuff in Hellraiser is pretty incredible.
No, you're right. Yeah, especially the skinless dude. Yeah, there's a lot of that, a lot of him. Yeah. I'm thinking the Cenobites and like one monster. There's a lot more than that.
And there's like the scene where it's like a claymation scene where the guy comes back, but yeah, but I don't know, like, yeah, this one definitely feels more camp. It's got that Stuart Gordon look to it that we expect, and plus, you know, you get actors like Jeffrey Combs, you kind of expect a certain type of film.
Yeah, I've not seen all of Stuart Gordon's films, but I think, you know, this definitely Reanimator. I remember having fun with Dolls, which was around the same time. You know, I dig those movies. I wasn't any Castle Freak, and Robot Jocks was all right, but it definitely it kind of feels.
I'd like to watch it again, but yeah, it was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, it kind of feels to me like he's a director who's got a lot of gems, or at least 3 anyway, in the 80s, but his 90s works a bit more. Like, you know, much like a lot of these films, like Empire Pictures even, who was behind this movie, like, you know, their output, like, you look at, because Empire, I think, became Full Moon, or the same people behind Empire became Full Moon, or started Full Moon, and then you look at the first Trancers, which is low budget, but you compare Trancers 1 to Trancers 5, which was later in the 90s, and it's like, you can, there's a difference, that you can feel the decline of quality
even
happening.
for a Trancers movie.
Yes. So, yes. I want to say Empire. I want to say Charles Band had something to do with Empire before he went off and did Full Moon. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
I think you're right. Well, they're definitely linked somehow.
They're definitely linked. I know it in my bones. I know it in my bones. I'd have to go back and check why.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of bones, like some of the scenes at the end where the monster is like merging with Jeffrey Combs and he keeps trying to escape, and there's this like you see like different like heads that are glued together, like try to peel apart from each other. and like you see this like skulls and stuff form, and it's really gross. It's really good.
Yeah. Really good stuff. Fun movie. Good effects. I mean, I think if you're in the mood for the sort of thing we just described, then you'll have a good time with it. If you're wanting something a bit more, like this is not 2001. It's not, Alien. It's it's not a lot of these other things. But if you're wanting a good B movie for your sci-fi night, From Beyond's a good one to go for.
Totally, it's definitely a good one. It's a good date movie.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah, just at the end of the movie, like, so are you stimulated, honey?
No, I would never do that. But
some girls make you watch. Oh god, I've forgotten the name. Dirty Dancing. Some girls make you watch Dirty Dancing for a night of loving, but some girls pick From Beyond.
Those are the keepers.
Your
My
pet's
cat is-
okay?
Yeah, Gus is acting strange. And he just went after the tree, and the tree's got one ornament on it that will talk to you if you get too close to it.
Yeah. I was going to say I thought I could hear something that wasn't a cat.
Yeah, it was R2D2 and C3PO telling him that there's a present peeker. I put the
Okay.
Christmas tree up.
Alright. Well, okay. I think it's time to rate From Beyond. What you giving it?
I do really like this movie. I've seen it twice now, and I do find it a very stimulating picture. Also, like, it doesn't slow down. I think it's really fun, really well paced. I love Jeffrey Combs. Like, I love Jeffrey Combs, and I'll watch anything that he's in. And I'm gonna give this a high recommendation and give it an 8.
Yeah. It may just scrape about an 8, I think. I'm definitely giving it a 7.5. I'm not going any lower than that. So I'll go 7.5, and I'll go a little, just a smidge lower. But it's a really fun time. I would recommend. So there you go, From Beyond. I think my barometer for this type of movie, it's not the exact same thing, but I think like what I would compare this to, obviously we compared it to Hellraiser for themes, right? But in terms of like style and when I'm in the mood for a movie like this, I think what I'd actually compare it to for that, I would say The Blob 1988 would be like, that maybe a good double feature with that is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that one's got a lot more humor in it, but
Yeah.
like it's got the right kind of gore.
Yeah. So cool. I'm going to make Tara pose for the thumbnail. So that's I don't know what you're going to do for this.
Either.
I could like tint as purple, I suppose, on the thumbnail, like when the machine's turned on. If you want to look
Sure. Yeah.
shocked at something.
Give us a magenta glow.
All right, just make sure the tip of your head. There you go. Just isn't peeking out. All right, 5, 3, 2, 1, pause.
Wait, I can't do it. Does that work?
I'll find out. I mean,
I tried to get my pineal gland out. Might have to censor it.
yeah, I don't think you can whip out your pineal gland without being asked for it. Seems a bit dodgy. Next time on the Atomic Cinema Expert, we don't actually have the exact movie for you, but we can tell you that we are doing 70s month over December. So the next 4 episodes will all be 70s movies. So look forward to that. Should be a fun time. So cool. Obviously, technically, the first one, I think it will be December, but it could maybe be the tippy end of November, depending. And likewise, there might be an episode right at the end of December for Matrix 4. But that also might just be like in the tippy start of January. But either way, it's 4 episodes of 70s. So
It's a Christmas miracle.
70s month. And we do plan doing like a top 25 of the 70s for New Year's. Yeah. So fun time. All right. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. Like and subscribe. All that stuff. Get us onto the Twitters at Screams Midnight. All these things do help us out. But of course, you can help us financially. Can't you, Tara?
That's right. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as little as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of The Ace, where we are currently working through some franchises like Tremors, which is really exciting. We did the first one on the Ace, regular Ace, but all the sequels have been on the bonus episodes. And you get lots of other good gems. So head on over, check that out. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these reviews 1 day early, and you will get to vote on what we watch once a month. Very exciting stuff. Very engaging for fans. Very stimulating.
I'll also add that one of the higher tiers, you get to become a producer. So I'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palisades, David Sharp, Bordenau, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. They are the Patreon producers for the month. So thank you very much. So that about does it. That wraps up the show. That has been From Beyond. And we will see you beyond the coming week for the next episode. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies. And computer, add salsa.